'Twas brillig and the slithy toes did gear and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome rafts outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son. The jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the chop bird and shun the frumious bandersnatch. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome rafts outgrabe.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. Today I have something so exciting for you guys. This is my entry into the 2017 NYX Face Awards. I was inspired by Lewis Carroll's poem, The Jabberwocky, and I kind of took from a bunch of different places and decided that I wanted to make it like dragon-like, a little devilish. And if you guys don't know the poem, you should definitely look it up. It's amazing. So to get this tutorial started, I have to make the prosthetic itself, which I did on a face cast. I took bits and pieces of this clay and started to shape kind of what I wanted. And pretty much how I would do this is I would take little pieces of the face cast and just press and smooth it onto the face until I was happy with the shape. This was definitely a tedious process, and honestly you guys, this was my first ever prosthetic, first ever face cast, so truly I didn't want to show that much because I still have a lot to learn, but I just kind of wanted to show you what I did. I took this tiny little loop tool and got in between each of the little scales that I wanted to make, and this was extremely time consuming and took forever. And then unfortunately I had a big mishap. The wood glue that I put all over my face cast decided that it wanted to peel off, and like I said, this is my first time doing this, so I had a lot of bumps along the way. Pretty much had to restart. I basically just did the same process, and I like to use this little sponge to kind of flatten things out and smooth things out so they weren't so bumpy. And then when I was finally happy with the sculpt itself, I was ready to make the prosthetic, where I applied liquid latex all over it, and I applied about 5 layers until I was kind of happy with the thickness. But you want to be careful because you don't want to put too much in the cracks because it will start to build up and you'll lose the detail. Now I'm just applying powder all over the prosthetic itself, and then very gently and carefully starting to pull it away from the mold. And I basically just took a little bit of face powder and then just kind of took turns pulling it, face powder, pulling it. And this is the end result. Basically you get like kind of a mask-like thing. So to get started on putting this on, I put black eyeliner all over my eyes, and I'm just blending that out with a brush. It doesn't have to be perfect, just something that is going to cover your eye holes. And then I am just stippling a little bit of black eyeshadow on to make it a little bit darker and more opaque. And I did want to mention that I actually had to cut out a lot of the detailing on the prosthetic because I didn't shape it correctly around my eyes and I needed to be able to see, so I had to cut things out, which was super sad, but like I said, learning a lot here. Now I'm just putting some red eyeshadow all over my lid. I kind of wanted it to be like that dark dragon-y color. Then taking some Prosade, putting that on my nose, waiting for it to get clear, which is like when it's ready to have something stick to it. And then just pressing the prosthetic into my face, kind of holding it there for a second until I felt it kind of really cling on. And then basically moving along the outside perimeter of the prosthetic until it's completely on. And here's a water break because you need to stay hydrated, people. This is a long process. You're gonna need some water and maybe some food, some snacks. I recommend it. Like I said, I'm just pressing that prosthetic into the Pros-Aid, and Pros-Aid is no joke. It really sticks, so you want to make sure that if you're putting it down, if you're placing down the prosthetic, you're putting it where you want it to be, because once it's stuck, it's definitely an interesting process to get it off. So make sure you're kind of being precise with this and taking your time. Patience is key. And sorry if it sounds like I'm just talking your head off. There's just a lot to say about this. There's a lot going on. Okay, so now that the prosthetic is stuck to my face, I'm gonna go into blending out the edges. And basically I take some liquid latex and this little sponge and start to stipple some latex on part of the prosthetic and part of my skin so that it starts to blend into my skin and look more, you know, cohesive instead of like a mask on my face. Some places needed a little more love than other places because that's just how things work. Then I'm just taking a light colored foundation and stippling that on top of the prosthetic. I kind of found that putting foundation that is my skin tone on the prosthetic, I feel like it would oxidize a little bit more and then the prosthetic would end up being darker than my skin. So I decided to use a lighter foundation on the prosthetic itself, and then as you can see here, I am putting a darker foundation all over my face and kind of meeting in the middle with the prosthetic and my skin so that they match. Then I'm just powdering everything up because you don't want to be shiny. Then I'm taking some black grease paint and starting to kind of blend that line where the prosthetic meets my eyeballs. And I just basically went around. I wasn't being very careful because I really wanted this black to kind of look like the dragon or the devil dragon, whatever you would like to call it, the Jabberwocky, was coming through my eyes and then kind of fading outwards. And please excuse this eye, it won't stop watering and it won't let any makeup stick to it because that's just how things go. So now I'm just kind of taking some black eyeshadow and really blending that black grease paint outwards to kind of give it that kind of dark effect around my eyes. Now I'm taking some red eyeshadow and going all over the scales, and you kind of can see them start to pop out when I put the shadow on them. Obviously, the right side of my face is already done. And I'm doing this kind of sporadically. I'm not being very careful with it. I just want to give the scales some color so that I can see where they are, and then I can go into more detail. And I felt like through this process, a lot of it was just kind of going back and forth. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll come back to this, I'll come back to that. It's just kind of a process of having patience and deciding when you think something looks good and when you feel like you're done. So this is kind of the most tedious part of the painting process. I'm taking a tiny little brush and some black grease paint and going in between all the little cracks in the scales and just defining each one. And when I would get towards the outer part of my face, I kind of wanted the scales to look like they were kind of just fading out. So I would leave them open. And like I said, guys, this is a very tedious process, so have some patience. Like I said, get a snack and just keep working. Then when I feel like I kind of make things a little too muddy or too harsh, I take a little bit of foundation and just kind of stipple that all over the prosthetic to kind of just blend things together, make it look a little bit less muddy, I guess. And also when you use the foundation, it kind of hits the high points of the prosthetic and gives it a little bit of a highlight, which it would naturally if something was raised. Now I'm just taking some red eyeshadow and just shading each of the scales. I'm not really doing it in any particular way. I'm just kind of shading each one, and then I kind of go back with the foundation. Like I said, it's a process of just kind of going back and forth to get it to where you want it to be. And now I'm just going in between all of the little crevices on the scales on my nose. And I felt like this was a really important part of this look. I feel like it kind of just pulled the whole thing together. I really tried to look at reference pictures so I could understand kind of how scales work. But in the end, I kind of ended up just going with my gut on how I wanted it to look. Because this is like the Jabberwocky, it's not necessarily like a creature that actually exists, you know, I mean, not that dragons exist, maybe they do, but I wanted it to kind of just have its own thing. So sometimes they look like perfect scales to me, sometimes they look like burned. I just kind of wanted it to have its own feel to it. Then I'm just taking some red eyeshadow and going along the perimeter of the prosthetic. I also wanted it to kind of look irritated around where the scales are so that it kind of looks like the dragon scales, the scales are coming out of my eyes and kind of hurting the rest of my face. Then I decided to kind of bridge the gap between the two sides just because I felt like it looked a little too mask-like, so I decided to draw in a few scales and I just kind of shaded them to make them look a little bit more 3D. Now I'm just going back in and kind of just defining those little tiny details a bit more. Then just taking that red eyeshadow and going over the tops of those scales. Now I've done my beautiful hair, and I am taking some red grease paint and blending that all the way down my neck. Kind of wanted that dragon neck. So taking the red, blending it all the way down. Then I'm taking some black grease paint and concentrating the darkest part of the black at the very top of my neck and blending downward. I've also, as you can see, popped on some false lashes and some black lipstick. Then just powdering everything up so that it kind of stays put. Grease paint is a little tricky. Now I'm making my horns. I'm basically just taking cotton and latex and twirling them into little horn shapes. It's super sticky and very messy, but they make great horns. So I would just twirl them up, wait for it to dry a little bit, and then stipple some black and red grease paint onto them. Then I took some latex and popped the horns on my face. And that is it for this tutorial, you guys. I hope you enjoyed my entry into the 2017 NYX Face Awards. I am crossing everything on my body that I make it into the top 30. I would be so overjoyed. I worked so hard on this and put so many hours and time and effort, and I'm so happy with the way that it turned out. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you do subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell button right next to the subscribe button so you can see more videos of mine. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and send all the good vibes my way that we make it into the top 30. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!